I know you're up on the Hill.
Yes.
And interacting with the senators and the congressmen. And what's top of mind for NAGDCA, the board? I think if you can share.
First of all, I guess I just want to say how important it is for NAGDCA to have an ongoing kind of lobbying presence with all of our elected officials and people in the administration. And Susan White has done that for NAGDCA for over 20 years, and it's been very important. So the board every year goes and visits, you know, in 2 days we'll visit anywhere from like 8 to 12 different people or offices, and we develop our strategies or our priorities, our legislative priorities. This has been the best time ever for the 5 years I've been going on these visits, where people were saying, yeah. In the past it was always interesting ideas. There's not going to be any legislation that moves in terms of tax reform, so don't think anything's going to happen. This time when we went, everybody said, this is an amazing time to be bringing these ideas forward, because tax reform is center stage, and they're not sure how they're going to work their vehicle, whether they're going to get a bipartisan vehicle, or maybe there's something that's going to come, you know, from the House or from a committee. They're not quite sure about that, but they do believe something's going to move. So NAGDCA had developed kind of a package of refinements to our Roth provision. You know, how many years ago did we get the Roth? About 5 to 6 years ago. We got the Roth provision for 457, which is very important to let people diversify, tax diversification, you know, whichever way they want it. That's really important. But there were some glitches that came with that legislation that we now know about, such as, you know, people who, well, first of all, most importantly, you know, 457 assets can roll 2 Roth IRAs, but Roth IRAs can't roll 2 457s. And so we see no reason for that to not be changed, so that could be adjusted. That gives people, you know, just the portability that they want, as well as the assets in the 457 Roth are subject to required minimum distributions, and whereas assets in the Roth IRA are not. So this creates an incentive when you get to that RMD stage to roll assets into the Roth IRA arena, which usually is a higher fee environment than your employer plan. So we've brought forward that we would like that equalized however they want to do it, if they want to add the RMD to the Roth or take it away from the 457. And then additionally, we learned this at the Wyoming retirement system, because we allow people to purchase service in their defined benefit plan, and they can use their 457 assets to roll over and purchase that service. We learned that the Roth 457 was not allowed to roll over and purchase. We see no reason for that, because we track whether the money that's purchasing the service is before tax or after tax. And so we brought that package of Roth refinements to people on the Hill, and all of them were like, you know, if a vehicle moves, these are things that we can do. And they very much received it as, yeah, this would just be very logical, helpful things to do. And they're not political in nature. They're just, now that we've lived with this vehicle for a while, we know what needs to be done to make it work even better. And then, for all my friends out there who manage 457 plans, and I know all of you, the first day of the month rule, which is this archaic rule that applies only to 457 plans, and it says that basically you can change your contribution amount, but it can't take place in the same month that you've elected it. It has to take place in the subsequent month. So it can oftentimes take almost 2 months to get a person's contribution amount changed. So in our world, people often have been working for a different employer that had a 401k that doesn't have this restriction. You can go in the day before payday and say, I want to change my contribution, and they can get it done for you. They come into our office and we say, okay, well, this will take place in 2 months. And they think that we're just being obstinate. And we said, no, we really have to follow this rule. It's actually in the federal statute, and there's no reason for it. So we're very hopeful that this will be a year, because a piece of tax legislation is moving, that we can get some of these refinements that would really help our plans in place. Couple of other things that have been talked about. There's always the issue of consolidation of defined contribution plans, And consolidation is one of those things, it seems like a good idea, and you start thinking about it and you think, well, how's it going to help the participant? You know, and the more you think about it, the more you realize it's really not going to be very helpful to the participants, because they're going to end up with assets in their old plan and in a new plan as well. And so it's one of these things where I think if it really doesn't get down to making things better and easier for the participant, I don't see, I'm not motivated to do it. So I guess from NAGDA's perspective, I think we've come to the viewpoint that consolidation is a lot of disruption for not very much improvement for the participant. And we would really rather focus on refinements to the vehicles that we have and make them work better. People who are in the plans have come to understand their plans and know their plans, and we think that would be the better approach.
So it's not only just education of participants, maybe educating the decision makers up on the Hill about the practical implications of making these changes, and what, and I think that's where you and others come in.
Yeah, yeah. One other thing that's floating around, and I know we're going to talk a lot about it at the roundtable, is there's ideas of creating incentives or shifting the incentives to support more of the after-tax savings for retirement as opposed to before tax. And that's interesting to me. I'm eager to learn more about what the proposals might be and how that might work. I really like the idea of people being able to choose their own preferred approach to tax diversification. And so I think we'll be learning more about that now, but I think that is what's being talked about right now.
Well, Polly, Scott, thank you so much for spending some time with us, and we hope that you will come back at some point, and we look forward to seeing how your plan develops, and we look forward to participating in NAGDA, so thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.